everyone. Welcome to the third episode of MPJRC podcast interview. I am Tanishka Tomar, the Vice President of Madhya Pradesh Judicial Reforms Council, and for our today's podcast, we have with us Mr. Atreyo Banerjee, who is working as a professional at Agami, which is a non-profit organization which is advancing ideas that serve justice. We welcome you, sir, to this interview podcast of MPJRC, which is inviting luminaries from the field of law. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Thank you, Tanishka. I am well. I am doing very well. Presently in Bangalore, and Bangalore is experiencing a very, very hot summer. So, as well as I can possibly be. But no, thanks for asking. I'm doing well, and I hope you are too.
Yes, sir. Absolutely fine. Thank you so much. So, before we move into the podcast, I would like to introduce Atreyo, sir, to all of our audience. And, sir, I would take a minute for this. Mr. Atreyo Banerjee is a lawyer working on OpenNyAI Mission at Agami. He has pursued his graduation as BA L.L.B. Honours from National Law University, Kolkata, that is NUJS, and his Masters in Law and Development from Azim Premji University. He is a very vibrant human who has extensively worked on issues of climate change, citizenship, and statelessness in India. And we believe that his association to the field of AI, that is artificial intelligence, will definitely throw light upon so many novel topics for me and for all the audience. Thank you again, sir, for being a part of this podcast. So, sir, all our audience are very keen to know about your journey from a law student to a professional who is working in a very innovative and novel field, that is artificial intelligence in law. So, would you throw light upon your background, your career, how you have started and how you have reached it?
Absolutely. I'd love to do that. See, very simply put, I was once where you are perhaps right now in law school. And law school can be a very confusing place in many ways because, usually when we are at law school, mostly the kind of career opportunities that are given to us are usually you go in one direction, which is the law firm route, or you go and you litigate before courts. And perhaps both of them are obviously fantastic opportunities. And there is most likely no better way to really interact and understand how our legal system works. And my journey in some sense has also been very traditional in that respect. I was an average student when I was in law school. I really wanted a law firm job. And I had started my career with a law firm called Trilegal with their competition law team, because competition law, for those who may not know what that domain is mostly about, is a very unique and a small act with profound consequences, in the sense that the Competition Commission of India is perhaps one of the strongest regulators today in the marketplace. Their main ask is to prevent monopolies and to ensure that mergers and acquisitions which happen further competition and don't restrict it. So as a subject, I found it fascinating. I really liked the idea of, and at that time, there was a lot of talk around these digital monopolies being created, like Facebook and WhatsApp and all of these things were happening. So it was a very exciting time to be a competition lawyer. So my initial journey was really that as a competition lawyer. But then when I started working at a law firm, I figured that, to really feel and get a pulse on how the law works. But I don't know if I'll have to eat my words later, but I feel to really get that pulse, one has to really go to the court. Until you're wearing your gown and your black, like white shirt and black pants, you don't get that feel as to what today the law represents to like the masses, and how you as a law student and me as a lawyer can really do something with it. So the next leg of my journey took me to Delhi. I worked with an advocate on record at the Supreme Court. In fact, I had a very interesting journey because most people actually start from, let's say, the trial court, and then they go on the appellate level. I started with appellate work. Very, very rich work in the sense that it was such a steep learning curve. If you're working in Delhi itself, it just has so many different courts and tribunals and forums. I was very lucky. I had a very kind and a very charitable boss, in the sense that he really taught me almost like holding my hand as to like how the system works, how do you draft, how do you do a bunch of different things. So that was my second tryst as a professional to be a litigator.
So I would like to
Yeah.
interrupt you here. I'm really sorry. But if I'm not wrong, and if I may put it in these words, can I say that the corporate culture did not really amaze you and then you switched on to litigation? Is that how
Uh,
this change happened?
I will not put it exactly like that. So,
Hmm.
there's a lot of buzz about corporate culture and how law
Yeah.
firms can be difficult spaces to work at.
Yeah.
And perhaps some of it is true. But my understanding has always been that it's really the kind of team that you're working with. I
Hmm.
just felt I was at a very early stage in my career, and I felt I did not want to be super domain specific because
Okay.
competition law as an area of law is very specific.
Very specific.
So it's easier to come into a specific from a general, but I felt that it's perhaps more difficult to go into the general from being a
Yeah.
specific.
Yeah.
And I really wanted that. I wanted that idea. I feel being a lawyer, the biggest thing is it's a very empowering profession. So I wanted to get the feel of arguing in court, briefing senior counsels, being part of matters which were sometimes like which had a lot of media attention. So I found those things exciting at that point. So yeah, I don't think it's so much to do with the culture more than my own
Okay.
perhaps
So
interests.
something
Yeah.
more about influencing the people on the ground level and rather than sitting on like having a desk job.
Yes, yes, no, absolutely. The one thing which I will say about litigation is that it's parts of it, of course, like it is a desk job in some sense. You can't like walk and draft a plane, but I mean, maybe some people can, I can't. But a large part of the job is really running, and if you're familiar with Delhi, or if some of the listeners are familiar with the city, they will know that the courts are not always very closely located. So you can have a
Yeah.
matter at, let's say, Saket, and then rush all the way to Rouse Avenue, which is near Connaught Place.
It's
So that's a
basically
fairly
jumping
long
from a court to
distance.
another. Yeah.
Yes, so a lot of moving and a lot of non-law skills, which become very critical in holding a litigation job. But yeah. So no, I mean, so following that, I had another tryst with a law firm. I was still working in litigation till about 2022.
Okay.
After that, I felt that now I've been working for almost 3.5 years, and I really want to go back to the classroom. I really want to see what larger role the law plays in society. And I feel sometimes going back to the classroom allows you the power to like reflect on your own journey. So that's really when I opted for the master's program at Azim Premji University, and the program was in law and development. It's essentially an interdisciplinary course where you study like different subjects across political theory,
All
sociology, and
right.
of course the like grounding law within it.
Okay.
And yeah, that's been my journey. So I'm personally very interested in seeing law as an edifice and how society interacts with it.
Yeah.
uh, and I'm fascinated with how legal institutions shape different aspects of society, and how as citizens we interact with the legal institution, how accessible it is, how accessible it is for a select group of people and perhaps not everybody. So I think a
Yeah.
large part of my work is about making the legal system and maybe justice as a whole more accessible. And really that's the grounding with which I work in my present job at Agami.
Okay. That's a very impressive principle, I would say, that is holding you on to move ahead. Sir, you have mentioned that this is what you have been wanting to do. Basically observing how different systems of justice are evolving, or how what are the changes that
Mhm.
could be made. So, in relation to this, sir, what exactly is Agami? So, as far as I have learned from the website, I know that Agami is a platform that is about bringing in innovative ideas to transform the
Yeah,
system of
fantastic.
justice.
No, that's a
So,
that's a
what
great
exactly?
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. See, I'll give it to you very simply. Agami is essentially an idea
Okay.
which is about, or rather, essentially, of course, firstly, Agami is an organization, it's a not-for-profit, and all of those things. It's in development sector. But once you take the whatever the actual bits and pieces, which is about what it formally is, what Agami really stands for, very simple: to further innovation in the law and justice space. What do I mean by that? Today, you hear countless examples of financial all these UPI applications, or you take how easy today it is to perhaps just log in and find insurance, right? Like Medicare and things like that. But you don't hear the same language being spoken when it comes to courts, when it comes to when it comes to dispute resolution, when it comes to
Definitely.
just accessing legal aid. So what Agami aims to really do, we try to take, if you see the field of law, if you think of the law, or if you think of legal systems as a field, we try to take that field forward. How do we do that? We identify change makers both within and outside the system. And I'm using the word system a little loosely here. By system, I essentially mean the formal legal system. So a change maker inside the system could be somebody like a sitting high court judge, a practicing lawyer, and an enterprising student such as yourself, who, let's say, has an idea today that, okay, this seems to be a way in which I can better existing laws. Maybe think of it as simply like today, if you come up with an idea of how can you very simply file for bail in court, that's a very powerful idea. So my role as somebody who's working at Agami would be to support that idea and to try my level best to take that idea forward. So in some sense, our role really is to work with the community, the legal community, the justice community. And honestly, I prefer the word justice over law or legal because it has a broader connotation. So I like to think that our work is also, although grounded in law, it is also outward looking because the law touches so many different parts of society. But yeah, in a nutshell, that's what we try to do. We try to further innovation. We try to bring brighter and better ideas into reimagining today how the legal system can work. And yeah, does that answer at least a part of your
Yeah,
question?
yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. So I'll just get a confirmation. So is it about changing and bringing in changes in the logistical part of the system?
Um, think of it this way, right? Something, we when you hear the term logistics, it's often thought that, oh, logistics is such a small component of some grand project. But if you
Hmm.
take anything grand, ultimately it's always made of multiple intersecting processes, right?
Yeah.
So even so what I'm trying to say is that no focus is really small for us. So for example, today, if you or maybe even me, if I come up with a amazing idea and I see that, okay, with this idea the logistics of filing a special leave petition before the
Hmm.
Supreme Court becomes easier, that's an idea worth following. And if I come
Okay.
up with another idea that, this idea seems that if I can implement this idea today, each and every person in our country will get legal aid, which perhaps is more grand in its imagination than just ensuring a draft is better filed. That is also an idea which is worth supporting.
Okay. All
So
right.
I would like to think, yeah, that no idea is like too small or too,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very innovative and a transformative kind of organization that is working to bring in the new thing for the generation. All right, and sir, also you are a part of this one mission, which is OpenAI AI. What exactly is this? Is it a part of Agami or is it a separate venture?
So the mission is called OpenNyAI. So open as in just open, welcoming. Nyay is justice, as we know, it's the Hindi word, the Sanskrit word for justice.
Yes.
And there's a bit of fun wordplay there because it's Nyay, so it's NYAI. So the AI
Yeah.
is like AI for justice.
Yeah, because all
But
this time I had been reading it as open N by AI until and unless I actually was watching a video
no,
on it
no, I
and
understand.
yeah.
No, so but really that's the mission. What the words say, open AI. So as a
Hmm.
mission, what we try to, but let me first actually answer your question, what the mission is and who. So OpenAI is a collaborative mission in the sense that one of the founding partners of the OpenAI mission is my parent organization, which is Agami. We have three other founding partners. So we have the National Law School of India University, which is NLS Bangalore. We have this company called ThoughtWorks, which helps us with a lot of software development and technical resources because they are very critical for our mission, perhaps
Okay.
the most critical component. And we have Trilegal, which is one of our founding supporters of the mission as well. So these four groups of or four organizations have come together for the OpenAI mission. As a mission, very simply put, it aims to use and leverage AI for justice. This can look very different on different days, but there are essentially two broad components to it. Number one, we try to, similar to what I told you about accelerating ideas in justice, here what we try to do is we identify, let's say, somebody who's working on a particular problem. Let's take domestic violence. We identify a problem, or somebody else identifies a problem, and we work with them to see if there is a possible AI solution there. Can
Okay.
something be done today to what is perhaps such as like entrenched problem in our society? Can AI not solve it in its entirety? Of course, if I mean
Yeah.
nothing like it if that happens, but at least play an impactful role in solving some of these deeply entrenched problems in our society.
Like a
So
baby
that's
step
number
in
one.
order to move there.
I'm sorry, come again.
Like a baby step in order to move there, not the entire
Yeah, sometimes
change.
sometimes a baby step, sometimes maybe a few baby steps, sometimes
Yeah.
it'll be as many steps as is possible. So we don't really have a limit in that sense. But the second thing is we try and build out a certain foundational layer of technology. So today AI is also, I would say, mischaracterized and misunderstood in some sense. So anybody who says we build for or we build with AI, there's perhaps an understanding that anything and everything that is built is immediately going to have some amazing use case.
Mhm.
But what we have seen is that at least in a country like India, you need somebody needs to build the foundations on top of which other people can collaborate and build further and better. Think of it like somebody setting the foundations of a building, and
Yeah.
then an architect can design it better, an interior designer can sort of make the rooms pretty and that kind of a thing. So we have actually built out certain of these like foundational layers of technology. One of them, which has gotten some, a decent amount of attention, is called the Jugalbandi stack. And I'm happy to go more into that. But yeah, like the two core areas of focus is to work with the community and understand where AI can play like a more catalytic role,
Mhm.
and also build out some of these technologies ourselves or support the building of some of these technologies, which can then be used by other folks to build upon.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. It is actually a very good mission. And I hope that if we have the students like me or the ones who are in the law colleges, they coming forward and putting in ideas, it can actually, bring a lot of changes in our
Mhm.
entire system of justice, if I may not prefer the word law or legal. All right, sir.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This thing also leads me to this one question. It may sound a very pedestrian question coming out from populace because all the audience that we have, I hope or I assume that even they are not that learned in AI. However, it's a very big misconception, if I may use the word misconception, that AI is going to take away the employment of people. If we bring in
Mhm.
AI, then the contribution of the lawyers or maybe the other stakeholders would reduce, would decrease. And when we see in the past 1 decade or 2 decades, we have been witnessing a lot of people pursuing law as their graduation, their post graduation. So, how is this going to affect? Is this going to be a positive change when it comes to speed and efficiency? However, a negative change when it comes to employment of people or their contribution in the field?
No, that's a difficult question for multiple reasons to answer, because see, number one, before even you go into positives and negatives, one thing that we know is for sure is that AI it's here to stay. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like that
yeah,
the change aspect of the positives and the negatives, the change aspect is here to stay.
yeah.
Now, I am also like you in some sense. I am not an expert in how AI will truly impact society, and I'm also curious to like know more about it. My my 2 cents on the reading of it would be that today there is an invaluable opportunity for young students, enterprising lawyers, to try and understand that which parts of our work are more process based, more easier to do, let's say, with technology, more predictable,
Okay.
and try and use AI as a tool more than thinking. that, okay, this is something which is super scary and, it's the end of the world situation, because frankly speaking, and my sources for saying this is perhaps anybody's sources. It's the kind of things which I read, maybe let's say on different news outlets, and how what established AI leaders like maybe Sam Altman and the likes have said about it. So I don't know if there's an agenda there, but I think a lot of these folks have mentioned that today AI may lead to automation in certain sectors. It may have an impact on some jobs. But how that impact would be, the net result, will it be positive or negative? I think we are still a good number of years from truly getting to that. But if there are people who are concerned about it, I would say it presents an opportunity to really upscale, to learn about a field which is very, in some sense, also democratic, because it's new for everybody. I am also not from a engineering background, so I often don't understand a lot of discourse on AI. So a lot of it is self-taught. A lot of it is because I have wonderful colleagues who we can sort of brainstorm and ask questions of. So I would say that people start using those kind of resources and like learn more about the subject. See what is the buzz really about? Is there a buzz? Because I think there's a lot to be explored on that front.
It's a very unexplored field. Yeah. So I was mentioning that, sir, up till now, all I have heard from you is about your work, and I can actually see how passionate you are towards this, how passionate you are towards transformation. But one question which may arise for many students and everyone who would be listening, that how are you balancing your personal and professional life, because you are a part of all of these initiatives, and how you
Mhm.
think is also how you work. So how exactly are you
Yeah.
managing? Because I did go through
I
your
mean,
Instagram and
I
I
think
see that
the
you write.
yeah.
I think you write and you think beautifully. If yeah, if
No,
I have.
that's very generous of you. I think like everybody else, I struggle on a lot of days,
Hmm.
because it's not easy to have uh, a balance in the professional and personal sense always.
Yeah.
What helps and what maybe would help younger students to keep in mind is that today I think we're stepping into a world which has many opportunities. So it's okay if you're prioritizing things which you like, and it's okay to perhaps not have it figured out at the first go. I think we maybe I don't know if there's a generational gap between me and some of the people who listen to it, but uh, in my parents' generation, what is also known as the boomer generation, right?
Yeah.
It was very accepted that people would spend 20, 30 years in the same job. That
Hmm.
perhaps that narrative is not true anymore. People are more accepting of, let's say, job switches and exploration.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is really use the time in college to figure out a balance that works for you. Because what I realized in my masters, and I didn't realize at my undergrad, maybe because at my undergrad level I was also very young and didn't know a lot more about how maybe things are, is that education, and especially law school education, is pretty rigorous, right? Like it's a challenging
It
space to be
definitely
at. So it's
is.
actually a good space to really see, okay, how do I balance my, what we
Yeah.
study about 50, 60 subjects
It's
throughout
about
5 years.
academics, extracurricular,
Exactly.
co-curricular, unending list.
And yeah, and you know, I really think that the world, or a lot of jobs are becoming more accepting towards having a sort of balance, because I think more
Mm.
research is coming out that if you're well rested, if you're allowed to be given time, you also perform a lot better.
Yeah.
So really that, and if nothing else, I have a notebook, I make a to-do list. I think that's perhaps the that's the golden advice.
Yeah.
But
To-do list
yeah.
definitely help, but because they are binding in a sense, but the disappointment that comes from it if it is left unended or unchecked. So
Yeah, no, I
that's
really think that especially in this field, I feel the law is a very demanding profession. It's grueling on a lot of days. So I would say that there would be days for many students to feel that, oh, is this for me? But honestly, it's a marathon. Whatever your job may be. if it's dev sector, academia, litigation, law firm, anything, or something else entirely. The trick really is to show up and that like maintain a sense of consistency
The
as opposed to
consistency.
trying to show
Yeah.
up 100% every day and like today I'm just going to do my best. Every day you're not going to do your best. You'll most likely do your best on very few
That,
days. So I think that perspective really helps me at least.
definitely. Um, a very good advice, sir. Um, can I also know that a few projects, a couple of or more projects that you have actually worked upon being a part of Agami, just to know or to
Absolutely.
have a practical aspect of how this actually works? An example.
I think one of the maybe what I'll share the projects with you in terms of excitement. Number one being the projects which I was the most excited about, and the last one being I'm excited, but it's not number one. But then no, that's a joke. I actually like most of the work that I do. I think the most exciting work that I have done during my time at Agami is last year we had something called the OpenAI Makerspace Residency. um, a residency, I don't know if you're familiar or with the idea, but a residency is usually used in the art field where artists of different kinds they come to a physical space and you stay in residence. And while you stay in residence, you work on your art, you work on whatever it is that your project. So we did that for AI. And the aim was, or how it actually panned out, is that we had about 30 problem statements. So think 30 different organizations or individuals coming from different backgrounds, like a police officer came, somebody from legal policy, uh, retired high court judges, and the like. And all of them were working on different kinds of problem statements. So, for example, somebody was working on how do you make alternative dispute resolution more effective or more impactful. Somebody was working on how you make cause lists. Cause lists are what come out, the day before a matter is listed in court. How
Schedule.
do you make that more justiciable in the sense that, or rather more equitable, that the more pressing matters or the more urgent matters come up first? Is there a way to incorporate AI into it?
Yeah,
Somebody was
because right
working
now
on
all of
in
that is done manually. Like if a
most
matter
of it,
is
yeah,
urgent,
from
yeah,
from
it,
what
it
i
can be
from
taken.
what I know, yeah, and it's a pretty like difficult process.
Very
So the
hectic
aim
owing to
was
the
to,
number of cases
yeah,
the courts are.
exactly. So the aim was to get these problem statements and to see if these problem statements could have an AI solution and to pair up. So let's say today, if I am a subject, like if I'm a domain expert, let's say I'm a lawyer and I have a legal problem statement, I will get it to the residency. And over a period of 5 days, I'll actually work with machine learning engineers, data scientists to iterate on that problem statement and ideate and actually prototype a solution. Like, you
Okay.
go from zero to one.
Yeah.
So you're no more in that thinking stage, but you've actually built something out. And then, of course, you keep building on it and, of course, tap into our community if you need that kind of support or help. Why the residency or the first, it was also the first time something of this sort was happening in our country. So I think the residency was particularly special for me because it was a confluence of so many different backgrounds, engineers, lawyers, social sector experts, and also the space where we did it was, it's a beautiful city in Kerala, Kochi. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah.
the city. It was, I had not, so I really fell in love with also the physical like setup of the space.
Okay.
So that, and the residency is also speaks to the core part of our mission, which is furthering the use or furthering the potential of AI in the justice space. It's really our mission in action, so to speak of. Um, since then, done a bunch of other things. I have um, I won't say led, but I have held together a group of us who were trying to fine tune a large language model called the model is called Mistral. So AI
Okay.
enthusiasts might be familiar with it, but my ex-colleague, his name is Prathamesh, and my present colleague Aman, myself, Smita, Varun, who I work with in the OpenAI mission, we were actually trying to see that today can we use large language models and optimize it for legal tasks in India, which are jurisdiction specific, context specific. For example, if you use out of the box ChatGPT, It doesn't have context of, let's say, a lot of state laws, you
Yeah.
know. So think of it this way, like land laws vary across states. If you
Hmm.
ask an obscure question to ChatGPT or tell ChatGPT to come up with an argument for, let's say, a land related dispute, it might not give out the best results. So we were thinking that, or the aim was really to work out if we can use large language models to that extent. And we actually completed two fine-tuning exercises, and it was a lot of fun. It was a very rich learning exercise for us,
Hmm.
but it also showed us some of the constraints that AI presently faces in India, in the sense that as a technology, it's also very inaccessible.
Yeah.
For example, something like fine tuning is a enormously costly process. I can maybe, if you'd like, I can elaborate on what fine tuning means. But
Yeah.
to put it very simply, it involves a lot of compute power. So I'm
Okay.
sure you might have read about AI leading to GPU shortages and things like that.
Hmm.
So the reason for that is that today a lot of AI work requires those resources. We actually got a little lucky. We partnered with somebody who gave us access to GPUs, etc., which is why we could carry this experiment on. But we realized that today there is no substitute other than getting the community on board and collaborate and co-create some of these tools together. If
Definitely.
groups and individuals operate in silos, you took the example of students who could be interested.
Yeah.
If today I don't involve students in the kind of work that we are doing, it's a missed opportunity for us, and the
Hmm.
mission as a whole will suffer. So I love that process because of that. And also I think fine tuning an LLM itself is like pretty cool, right? Like you're actually doing cutting edge stuff. So yeah, that these I think the two top things I would say that I've had the good fortune to be a part of. Uh, Other than that, honestly, every day at my job is pretty exciting because just the nature of work is can often be very diverse and involves talking to and working with many different organizations coming from varied backgrounds. So that part of the job is something which I truly enjoy a lot. So yeah, I would most likely choose these three.
Thank you so much for that answer. It definitely explains how amazing and interesting your work is. Before we end this podcast, I would just want to know that how can the students who are listening to the podcast in our audience can actually collaborate or be a part of this mission or somewhere contribute if they have ideas, anything, how they can actually, be a part of
For
this.
sure. No, absolutely. The first thing that they can do is, I don't know if my email ID is going to be available anywhere, but you should totally put my email ID down. They
Okay,
can write to me
definitely.
directly.
Sure.
Uh, I might take a bit to respond, but I will respond, like for sure. So that's one thing that, so even if students want to generally have a chat or just to figure things out about how they can contribute, I'm happy to speak to them personally. But the second thing, which is perhaps more institutional in some sense. We do work closely with students, and a
Hmm.
lot of AI work right now is just gathering and understanding the best ways to gather data sets, legal data
Okay.
sets, think statutes, case laws, opinions, research articles, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So I would say that that is definitely one area in which students can come on board. Uh,
Okay.
and I am happy to maybe either speak to you or somebody from your team and take them through that. But essentially, we are always, as an organization, Agami is always very open to working with students, and we have internships and volunteering opportunities year round.
Oh,
So,
Agami does have
in fact,
internship programs.
absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, I would say another good way to do it is all of our profiles of, so Agami not just has the OpenAI mission, we also have another mission called Pukar. We have Agami Shala, and
Hmm.
presently this year we are also doing something called Make for Justice.
Okay.
And the crux of Make for Justice is to work with students. It's really to imbibe a sense of justice making in students. So
Hmm.
all of our profiles and everything is available on the Agami website. So feel free to write to any of us. And personally, like I said, I am more than happy to speak to students in any small way and help.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. It was really, really amazing to hear you, and it was my absolute pleasure and honor.
No,
Um,
no, thank you. Thank you so much.
yeah, and sir, I, on behalf of the entire team of Madhya Pradesh Judicial Reforms Council, we are very grateful that you have had come here. And also, sir, we hope that you now, always need any help in our future endeavors.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Would love to.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you,
This
Tanishka.
is
Bye.
Tanishka Tomar, the Vice President of MPJRC, signing off for this podcast. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll be back with some other episode, some other day, some other. Thank you.
Thank you.